In this video, we're gonna go over what co-hosting is, why you should do it, and how to do it so that you're as profitable as possible.
And what you need to do before you pitch your first client.
Hi, I'm Sarah Karakayan.
And I'm Annette Grant.
And together we are
Thanks for visiting. We've been hosting for well over a decade, welcomed tens of thousands of guests, and earned thousands of 5-star reviews.
Our portfolio continues to bring in over 1.5 million year over year, and supported not only by the industry's leading brands, but also some of the biggest media outlets.
And we're here to help you with your furnished rental.
So before we get started, you might be wondering, what is a co-host?
A co-host partners with a property owner to help with such tasks like messaging the guests or coordinating maintenance and cleaning. They essentially do everything it takes to make sure the rental is ready for every single guest arrival, ensuring 5-star stays.
And a co-host will often earn a commission that is based on the percentage of the booking revenue.
Now, finding the perfect co-hosting client is such an important part to building your co-hosting business, which is what this video is all about. So let's get to it. Before you start looking for co-hosting clients, here is what you have to have established. You need to establish brand standards for your business. It can mean that working with you means you have to have white bedding and towels. It can mean you have to have, all of your homes have to have a view. But we want you to focus on your safety brand standards, your location brand standards, and your amenity brand standards. These 3 components not only make sure that the portfolio you're building, you're proud to represent, but can also be a selling feature for your potential client. It's like saying, hey, potential client, you can rest assured that your amazing property in this amazing location is going to sit amongst other amazing properties in amazing locations so that people come to our brand expecting a certain brand standard, and so therefore you fit. It's just like why you would always go to a Restoration Hardware, like you know what to expect there. Restoration Hardware isn't gonna have a dollar store trinket available at their store. You know what to go to when you inspect and you go to that kind of store versus a Dollar Tree. It's the same thing with your portfolio. Now you might have a portfolio that actually is more at economic stays, and that's okay too, but knowing who you are and setting boundaries is going to be imperative before you start taking on potential client interviews.
With this foundational work, you need to start with your revenue goals. That's how you're gonna reverse engineer this. You wanna start with that overarching top line revenue goal, and then how are you going to reach that goal? What homes do you need in your portfolio to get you to that revenue goal? Let's say, you can do the math. The math is really simple to do. And if you're looking at maybe 1 bedroom, 1 bath, you're gonna need a lot more of those to hit your overarching revenue goal than maybe, 4 bed, 4 bath luxury homes. So this is really important ahead of time. That way, you're not saying yes to every single client. You'll know exactly where you're headed and what numbers you need to get there.
What to include in your pitch. You can call this your hosting resume. You can call this a brag book. I don't want you to overcomplicate this. This could be something that you create on a Word doc or in Canva if you want to make it more of a aesthetically pleasing printed page or 2. It can also be on your website. You can create a whole page about what your co-hosting business offers, right? And so on this page, what would you include? The first thing you want to include is testimonials. So if you have a history of hosting guests for yourself, definitely include your 4.99 star rating or your 5-star rating or whatever that average is over how many years you've been hosting. You can also include that you have a safety program. I'm telling you, you're gonna set yourself apart from other co-hosts in your area if you use safety to sell your potential clients, because remember, you're helping them manage their biggest asset, and if they know that you're already thinking of safety and preventative maintenance, you are going to outshine your competition.
I love what Sarah said about not only testimonials from previous guests. If you have testimonials from current owners that you're working with, you're gonna wanna include those also. That's a huge thing, so they can see both your services, the people that you're managing their asset, and then the people that are staying with you too.
You also can take this time, either in your previous hosting career or now that you're like, okay, I'm gonna get my co-hosting business up and running, build relationship with vendors. I wouldn't list the vendor names on your website because you want to hold those near and dear, but let them know that you get discounts to linens and furniture and decor, and that working with you, they either get the best deals possible, depending on if you're taking a cut of the savings that you can offer, or maybe you extend the savings to your clients. But either way, you have access to the top vendors for, it could be preventative maintenance too. So you have relationships with local HVAC and handy people, and you get the best rates with these people because of your book of business.
Your company structure. This is something you want to share with your potential client. Hopefully you have a strong cleaning partner. You have an inspector for your properties. If you don't know what an inspector is, check out our inspection video. You should have a revenue manager. And here's the deal. You might be all of those things right now, but you need to share with your potential client the who, what, where, and why of those positions and how they are going to benefit from your company and the team members that either you have or you plan on hiring.
Already have your contract ready to go to present to potential new client. And we get it. Sometimes it happens where someone approaches you and you're so excited and you just agree verbally to a relationship.
Handshake agreement.
And that's not okay. So even if that does happen, say, yes, let me make sure I get my contract to you. And then you can be like a duck with feet underwater and figure out a great contract. But if you're here planning your co-hosting business because you know you want to get more involved in the short-term rental world, make sure that you already have that contract in place, discuss it with your attorney, make sure that all the different things that maybe you don't know, what you don't know, your attorney can help you with that, so that when you do talk to your potential client, you can go through it with them, make sure they understand it. And if they have any hesitations with any of your clauses, you understand the importance of why that clause is in there so that you can defend it.
During the company structure, explaining what their contract is, there's going to be some things in that structure showing what you as the co-host are responsible for, what they as the homeowner is responsible for. And this is going to be a plethora of things, from linens to landscaping to repairs and maintenance. Maybe they're actually haven't even designed or decorated their short-term rental yet. Photography. There's going to be this laundry list, and you want to make sure that you're very clear when you're structuring the agreement and talking about your company structure. You have that contract to go through line by line. And while you're going through the company structure and this initial pitch, look, you've just got to put the numbers on the table. You need to let them know what your pricing structure is, what the investment is going to be to partner with you. So any commissions, fees, you've got to have that in the initial conversation. Obviously, they're going to be hopefully interviewing a multitude of people, and you just want to be crystal clear with that right out of the gate.
And if I can, use at the beginning of company structure to understand where you want to end up, and so reverse engineer so you know where you want to go. And this is why just picking a fee, a commission fee, and all the other fees, you got to start somewhere. So just pick something, sure, see what other people are charging, but make sure that you understand how that maths to get to where you want to go. Because so many times we see co-hosts
under-earning.
They're under-earning. We're not just saying that because we believe in you.
Significantly under-earning.
It's because, here's the thing, if you see someone else out there charging, I'll just say amounts here, 10, 12, 15%, it's because they have these fees that you're not privy to. Okay, so understand, if your average daily rate in your market of the houses that we talked about, location, amenities, all that stuff, what is the average daily rate of that house? So what is that house, what can it earn over the whole year? And so what does that mean for commission for you? Okay, so now if you pick that commission rate, and then what about any other fees that you want to tack on? Maybe setup fee, are you going to help them design fee? And make sure all that, can you support this business and being ongoing and give the potential client the kind of service you want to give by charging them up an appropriate amount.
Yeah, you can do the math ahead of time.
Client onboarding. I like this, Annette. You said, assume the sale.
Yeah, you don't want to leave that first initial meeting with them not knowing what's next. Just assume that they are your new client. So you want to get those questions answered for them.
And that's actually great psychologically. If you just talk so when we get started together, because you've already pieced together, you would love to have this client, you would love to have this home in your portfolio. So let them know what that onboarding process is like. Because here's the thing that you may not know. You might be thinking as a co-host, you're already thinking about your commission on a nightly stay, right? Because that's how you're gonna make your money. But what happens before you have that first paying guest? There's a lot of work on onboarding a client into your portfolio, even if they're your first one, your client doesn't know. You have to get the listing set up. You have to make sure the photos are to your liking and that you know those photos will sell. Does it need staged? Does the staging need tweaked or improved on because you know it's not what you would be proud to offer your guest? And all that stuff you cannot do for free. I'm not even saying you shouldn't do for free. You cannot do that for free, okay? Like there's a lot that gets involved that goes on there, from making sure the linens are ready to making sure the listing looks great online. So
property is clean and all the maintenance has been done. We are in shock continually about how people will invest hundreds of thousands, up to millions of dollars into their property, but when it comes to actually starting their business, they don't want to make any investment. You are helping this client get their business started. So there are some startup costs involved. Client relations. Just like we were talking about onboarding, you also want to assume they are going to be your clients. You want to talk to them about what the relationship is going to be like once they are your client. How are you going to communicate? When are you going to communicate? When are owner statements going to be given? And what do those owner statements involve? Also, great time to talk about if they no longer want to be your client. This is a thing I think most potential clients will respect the most, of you talking about a full-on exit. Let's say they even sell the property, or they just maybe they want to sell that property and get a bigger property. Like the exit doesn't always have to be like the end of your relationship. It could be the relationship grows, but talking about what's next with their property is important. So again, you want to assume that they're going to be your client. You want to talk to them about how you're going to communicate throughout the relationship.
You can also be very upfront and share with them what your exit strategy is should the property no longer fit within your portfolio, or just what that, you can point that out in your contract and let them know what that looks like. But I want to tell you a quick story about how important it is to have the who, what, where, when, why, and how of communicating with a client. I actually just had a call a couple weeks ago with a potential client who reached out to us. I looked at her, she already had a property up and running, and her name wasn't the same name as the host on her Airbnb listing. So I was like, this is interesting. Come to find out, she had a co-host, and her biggest grievance was that she doesn't know anything about her property. She doesn't know if it's being successful. She doesn't know what the revenue management strategy is. She doesn't know, they just got up and running like 6 weeks ago, and she doesn't know, when will I start making money? I know that AirDNA said I should be making this much. We're making this much. Is that normal? Is it not normal? Is he doing a bad job? Is he doing a good job? I don't know. And so then she turns to berating her co-host verbally in terms of like communication, asking them every day, so what's the price this weekend? What's the price next week? And obviously the co-host can't do their job if that owner is breathing down their neck in terms of asking all these questions, but it is the co-host's fault for not telling her what to expect. I will be sending out an owner statement at the end of every month. After every 3 months, so every quarter, we'll share with you how that went, because looking every month or week to week that's not an appropriate picture of the health of your property. We need more time to really understand. I'll give you a forecast of what I believe the property will make in the next 3 months. Here's what we can improve on. Here's what went well. You have to set all of this up front so that you're not then complaining about your client, asking you so many questions or emailing you too much or
texting you all hours. We've probably talked to 10 co-hosts in the last month who do not have any boundaries set up with their clients, and the clients are texting them during the morning, at night, on weekends, holidays. But when that happens, you have to look at yourself and know what boundaries and then how you've asked them to communicate with you and your team.
The interview process. The interview process is actually twofold. There's the client interview, and then you're interviewing the property. This can be concurrent, but you might need to after you talk to the client about what their hopes and dreams are. Then you definitely want to focus on the property, because you are you're serving the client, you're serving the home, and you're serving your guests. And so all three have to work together harmoniously, right? Just remember, as a co-host, especially as building a new business, you get so excited when someone reaches out to you and wants to work with you, and you think you have to say yes. But sometimes saying no is the best decision you can make for your business. Maybe you're saying no because you interviewed the property, and while the client is awesome, the property is just not going to bring in that much money. Even if it's bringing in what the top of what the market says, or you beat the market, and you look at it holistically. I'm going to give you an example. There's a carriage home, so it's a garage off of a primary home. There's a 1-bedroom apartment above it.
Beautiful, brand new.
Gorgeous,
Yeah.
Perfect location.
It checked most boxes.
But the box it didn't check was when I think about my team have to deviating from our 12-unit properties or our 4-bed, 3-bath properties, right? Those properties that individually bring in a significant amount of revenue, and then pivoting and going to a 1-bedroom carriage house, a few streets away, and making, $7,000 a year in commission. It just doesn't make sense for our business. Now, it might make sense for you because you're starting out.
Right.
I also want to give you that caveat of you need to say some yeses to things that down the road you probably wouldn't say yes to anymore. But I do want to get your brain thinking in that regard. So the client checked all the boxes, the property was gorgeous, great location, but the revenue wasn't going to move the needle enough for us to say yes to it. These are the kind of questions you have to talk to your potential client during an interview and know that you're interviewing them as much as you're letting them interview you.
Yeah, and for example, that particular client, maybe that carriage house, saying yes to that, might have brought on, let's say he had 10 more properties. This is where, like Sarah said, you really want to interview and ask long-term goals, what their whole portfolio looks like, because maybe it would make sense to host this carriage house if that meant getting, a multitude of other properties. And maybe that was, quote unquote, his test was, let's try this one. For instance, when I started with my first co-hosting client, we started with one unit, and that one unit grew. It continued. He had 2, and then it was 3, and then it was 4. So that was a smart move. I didn't know that at the time, but that could be your client. If you know that they have a larger portfolio that you could service, you might say yes to that. But that is, again, why it's so important that you are interviewing them at the same time they are interviewing you. Just want to circle back to what we started this whole video with, is like, it is okay to say no. There is power in the pause and really thinking if there is alignment with your client, because this is an important and most likely a very long-term relationship. There are statistics for smaller short-term rental co-hosting companies, let's say versus the big dogs, let's say like the Vacasa's, Evolve of the world. Those contracts have a very small shelf life, but when an owner decides to go with a smaller business, that contract can last up to 10 years. So we don't want you to be short-sighted in this, that you really want to think through. Again, you are interviewing the client just as much as they are interviewing you. And that the safety and the well-being of your guests should be at the forefront of that interview. Also, obviously, we want to talk about our money and their money, but we have to think about the hospitality that property is going to provide through each and every stay. And the biggest thing we want you to understand too, you have a commitment to the short-term rental community. Not all homes should be short-term rentals. Not all owners should be your client of said short-term rentals. So we're also going to put that responsibility into you. If you know that you're interviewing an owner that has a home that should not be a short-term rental, you have to do a solid for the whole entire short-term rental community and tell them why and how they can get it up to short-term rental standards, or why that maybe their property isn't the best for that, because we have seen a lot of people try to fix their quote-unquote bad buys and turn them into short-term rentals. And we can share with you, that is who we've said no to the most. They are trying to just find a solution to a bad buy. And short-term rentals cannot and should not be the solution for a bad buy. So we just want you to beware if you're interviewing that style of client, because they are grasping to try to earn their money back. And guess who that is going to fall on? That's going to fall on your shoulders, and that is not going to be fun at all.
And going back to saying no to a client that can help you double your revenue, have you ever heard that if you say no to something, that means you get to say yes to something else? Mm-hmm. Okay, so if you have the means in which you can say no to something that's not a good fit, location, safety, amenities, they're trying to save your bad buy, they're going to be a terrible client. And that interview, like maybe you're on Zoom or that coffee date for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, okay, and then don't let that drag out, because time is money. Because now you can take on another client interview with a home that's going to bring in so much more revenue, connect you with so many more opportunities. And that's exactly what we found that would happen with us when we found the confidence to say no to something that wasn't aligned with us, and knowing that we were saying no to really, it's like that 80-20 rule. That house is going to take 80% of our time and make 20% of our revenue. Let's say no to that, so we have room to say yes to the client and the property that's going to bring in a lot of revenue. We really enjoy running it for the client and helping that client make money.
Take pride in it. One other thing we're going to share too is we've had owners say no to us.
We have.
And what's interesting is some of those said owners that have said no to us
come back
because they got a better deal somewhere else. Well, they come back around. So we know it might be some initial disappointment when an owner chooses to go elsewhere, but stay positive, stay firm in what your offering is, and we can share story after story of not ours personally, but tons of co-hosts in our membership who've had the same thing happen where they chose someone else, tried it for a season or two, and came knocking again, I'm ready to work with you.
Check out the show notes below. We have a worksheet for you all about getting to know your numbers, because your numbers are your clients' numbers, and if you don't know them, that you're not going to be the best co-host you can be. So check out that download and get familiar.
We have 2 videos we want you to check out. One is why we say no to rental arbitrage, and we still and will always say no to rental arbitrage. And then our other video is about how to run the numbers on a short-term rental deal, because you might have a potential client that hasn't even purchased their property yet, and they might look to you for that advice.
And with that, I am Sarah Karakayan.
I'm Annette Grant, and together we are
Thanks for visiting.